Tom Clark's 6M podcast is a Boink Studios production. And now, on with the show. Hey, what is up? Welcome to Tom Clark's 6M podcast. I'm your host, Tom Clark, and in this episode, I'm joined by co-host Phil Lindsey.
So where were you, kids, on November 8th, 2021? Everybody take a minute, just take a breath, pause this if you need to. Go back in your mental filing system there. See if you can remember, where were you? What were you watching? What were you listening to? What were you doing? It was close to Thanksgiving that year, just around the corner from it. Everybody preparing, probably starting to do some Christmas shopping, early Christmas shopping. I imagine we were all doing that. Yours truly's Christmas tree was already up. Don't fight me on that. I'm a fiend for Christmas. It's how I roll. But if this date means nothing to you, then you may not be aware that on November 8th, 2021, Spider-Man 2, or at least our review of Spider-Man 2, came out on this here little podcast. It was episode number 65. Holy Lord, can you believe that? Myself and my co-host here today, we covered that film and hailed it as quite possibly the greatest superhero sequel of all time. Now, some movies have happened since then, and we'll leave it up to you whether or not you agree. But if you'd like to go back into the archives of this show, go back to episode number 65, November 8th, 2021, and you will see, or I should say, hear our review on Spider-Man 2. And yes, this is the Toby Maguire version, as evidenced by the title of this little episode, Spider-Man 2002. That's what this episode is. Yes, if you're asking the question, I did check. We've not covered this. No, we don't go in particular order on this show. I said from the jump, from the very beginning of this podcast in 2020, that I wanted this show to be different. We could go out of sequence. We could do whatever we wanted to do. We didn't have to be bound to continuity. Nothing had to be in a specific timeline. And so that's how we arrived here today. That's the smart answer. The not so smart answer is, I kind of didn't realize we never did this movie. So here we are. Welcome to the show, kids. Let's talk about this Spider-Man flick. Spider-Man is a 2002 American superhero film based on the Marvel Comics character of the same name, created by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko, directed by Sam Raimi from a screenplay by David Koepp. It is the first installment of Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy, produced by Columbia Pictures in association with Marvel Enterprises and Laura Ziskin Productions, and distributed by Sony Pictures Releasing. The film stars an assorted cast of characters and chronicles Spider-Man's origin story and early superhero career. And that's where we begin. If you'd like to have a little bit more, the release date, April 29th, 2002. Get ready for this one, kids. Total running time, 121 minutes. The budget for this film is $139 million. A paltry sum. The box office for this film, $825.7 million. Whew. And that is your lowdown on Spider-Man 2002. So, Phil, I have spoken about this on socials lately, that oftentimes you and I have both done it independently of each other, thinking that we've already recorded something. Turns out we did not. But we're finally getting to this film today. Watching back over this movie again, Phil, how long has it been since you've actually seen this version of Spider-Man?
I've seen it pretty often. I feel like every time it's on cable, I'll sit and watch it. Every time I see it on FX or whatever Turner channel it comes on, I'll sit and watch it. So I've watched it pretty often.
Excellent movie. Does it still hold up for you overall?
Yes.
Awesome.
I am a big fan of both of the Raimi films. Also the third film. I can't say that I'm a big Spider-Man 3 defender. But I don't think it's as bad as it seemed at the time. I think there are better Spider-Man movies, but the first two movies absolutely hold up very well.
I've seen it twice. And that's been years ago. I'm talking about when it first came out. So, like, to be fair, I've never revisited it. Maybe we'll do part 3 here on the show at some point. I'm not against it.
The best thing to come out of the Spider-Man 3 movie is Toby Maguire in real life has these videos. I don't know if you've seen them, like where the paparazzi is bothering him, and he'll just like do something to get the paparazzi to leave him alone, like slap somebody's camera out of their hand, and or like or yell at somebody. There are several clips of this. This was a big thing when No Way Home came out, and people were catching candid stuff of Toby and fans or Toby and paparazzis, and people kept putting that the score from Spider-Man 3 over it whenever Peter would do something a little bit bad, and so he's talking to this one guy that's trying to get his attention to take a picture, and he just completely ignores him, and then all of a sudden, da 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 da.
Wonderful. I have
One
not
of the best
seen that.
memes to come out of Spider-Man 3 is the Bully Maguire stuff. Very funny.
Oh, and that dance, the dance in the doorway, you know.
Yes.
Let's be honest. I mean, look, the Spider-Verse movie's not the same without that clip, man.
No, listen, Spider-Man 3 gave us a lot of great things. The stuff with Sandman is great. The initial fight with Sandman is really good. I think like a lot of action sequences are still hold up very well. The opening of the movie with him and Harry is still very good. There are other things about it that are not good, but I don't want to turn into a Spider-Man 3 defender here.
And they brought it back. They brought it back home, that movie in No Way Home, which was nice.
Yes.
By the way, kids, that was episode number 73 from January 4th of 2022. See, we even did that one. But we have not done the first Spider-Man. This one holds up for me. I've been a part of debates where people say part 2 is much better than the first one. I'm like, I love part 2. I, however, love part 1. And Phil, we've said here on the show before multiple times, if we said it once, that once upon a time there was nothing for comic fans to enjoy. And this came after X-Men, of course. So the first time that we see the wall crawler on the silver screen, and you talk about pressure, I'm sure that was felt from the ground up, maybe not in a bad way, but the pressure to get this right. I mean, overall, Phil, I know you said you feel like it holds up. Overall, do you think they got it right with this particular incarnation of Spider-Man?
I think they got the spirit of Spider-Man right. I think there are certain things that I would have liked to see more of. I know a lot of the criticism of Toby is that he doesn't do a lot of the banner and mask. He's not as funny. None of that really bothers me as much because I feel like the rest of the movie mostly gets the spirit of Spider-Man correct.
I think you're right. And honestly, Phil, let's be real about it. If he did start just throwing out the quips like webs when he got the mask on, it doesn't really fit the kid under the mask, does it?
I think he does it at times and it fits. Of course, in the infamous bone saw
Yes.
scenes, he does it a little bit. He does it a little bit in some of the other scenes, but no, I enjoy him a lot. I think Toby's great. Somebody was just showing some of the stuff from Spider-Man 2 and how much his grunts and screams during some of the fight scenes when it's CGI adds to it and adds to how close up some of the fight scenes feel and how like visceral they are. And I totally agree. I think like some of the stuff where you see him swinging and you can hear him like screaming or like letting out this big grunt or roar when he's getting ready to jump into a swing. I think it adds a lot to the movie.
Yeah. I agree with that. It makes it feel like it's really him under the mask. I mean, that's a helmet they got on with that mask over it. You know, it's a plastic. There's no other way to put it. That's why his jawline is so pronounced in that mask, dude.
Yes.
Freaking crazy. I mean, I thought he nailed it too. I really do. And I mean, this, kids, if you're paying attention, this is basically the 616 version of Spider-Man for all intents and purposes. This is the guy this is your daddy's Spider-Man is what I'm trying to tell you. Basically, it is. And the Tom Holland version, not so much your daddy's Spider-Man. It's perfectly fine. I freaking love Tom Holland. But like, Phil, this, to me, this checks the boxes for the most part, man. I can't find a whole lot wrong with this flick.
Yeah, I really enjoy Toby as Spider-Man. For me, I think Tom Holland is all around the best Spider-Man.
Mm,
But I think for me, there's just something special about Toby as Spider-Man. Maybe because he was the first one, and there's so many things linked to him. I think the first two movies get us to care about Peter Parker as a character, and
mm.
that's so important to making a Spider-Man movie. It's the guy behind the mask. That's the story,
Yep.
and I think the first two movies really nail it, especially when you get to the end of the movie. I would even go as far as to say that I don't think there's any movie that has nailed the character of Spider-Man more than the ending of Spider-Man 1. It's pitch perfect.
Awesome.
Everything he says, him swinging away at the end, it is all Spider-Man to me.
So good. He's such a tortured character. Like we've said it multiple times here, Phil, that Peter Parker's life got exponentially worse because he got powers. Like,
Yeah.
what? But it got worse for it didn't get better. I mean, his confidence may have gotten better, but his life didn't improve drastically. He's still the same guy with the same problems.
Yes. I that again that's just so important to this to the story. That's so important to the character. And I think Sam Raimi and Toby got that right. Whether you think he's the perfect Spider-Man or the perfect Peter Parker, um, I just think that we're invested in him as a character. We're invested in Peter Parker's story.
Mm. Yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, a lot of the stuff said about him, Phil, as you know, is he was too old. This is high school senior Peter Parker, and as we know, Tobey Maguire was 42 when this movie was made. I'm kidding; it's a joke. Uh, he was 27, and his co-star Kirsten Dunst was 20. So she was closer. Him, not so much. I mean, dude, we should all have the problem, Phil, of having boyish good looks. Like,
Yeah,
I can't say I'm cursed with that problem, Phil. Toby's, I mean, I don't know. To me, that should benefit an actor, in my opinion.
yeah. I mean, I get it. It would have been better to see them cast somebody younger. I think Tom works for a lot of reasons because he's younger and he feels like an actual teenager in the role. Um, I think Andrew Garfield, for the same reasons, he had kind of the build of a teenager. And so I think that worked to benefit. But I still very much enjoy Toby in the role because I think he brings so many other good things to the role as an actor.
Yeah, for sure. And look, like any other projects, kids, like I remember Phil being at some point back in the day, the Spider-Man film, as directed by James Cameron, and several other iterations or ideas or versions. Development hell is the word that was used many, many times for this project, Phil. They just couldn't get it off the ground. But like once it started going, it took off. Like, we always talk about actors that are considered for parts. DiCaprio was considered for this, Freddie Prinze Jr., Chris O'Donnell, Jude Law, Chris Klein, Ewan McGregor, Wes Bentley, and Heath Ledger. Imagine a world in which Heath Ledger was Spider-Man.
Yeah, we almost ended up with Spider-Man directed by James Cameron,
Yep.
and I believe wasn't Leo the front runner for that movie?
I'm pretty sure you're right. Yep. Yep.
Yep, almost ended up with Leonardo DiCaprio. Ended up going with a longtime friend of Leonardo DiCaprio, Tobey Maguire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well played. Yeah. I'm like you. I think it's perfect. And I mean, you have to look, the truth is, Phil, you should nail the cast in every movie. But
Hmm.
like for a character that has so much history that fans have their great grandparents know who the character is. Like that's a big deal. Like, you know, at this point in time, that face is known all over the world. Like, you have to get the cast right, man. If you screw up with the cast on any member, it's like a great band, dude. If the drummer can't carry the band, they're not going to be successful. Like
Yeah.
one wrong casting here, Phil, this movie doesn't work. I think everybody's on par and everybody should be who they are, and I think everybody did fantastic, actually.
Yes. Yeah. I over time I wasn't the biggest fan of Kirsten Dunst as
Mhm.
Mary Jane. But I don't think she does anything in the first two movies that bothers me that much. It's mostly the third movie.
Yeah. And for me, I think if anyone needed proof that she is a great MJ, is at the end of part 2 when she says, "Go get him, Tiger," and she has that look in her eyes. It's just magic. Like her and Toby at that point are just in sync, in lockstep with each other. It's just a beautiful thing to watch. And then part 3 happened, and then hoy.
Yeah,
So
I think she also kind of nails the spirit of a woman from New York as well.
hmm,
Like the part where she's coming from work and he's trying to get her attention and she's just like buzz off and then she's like the I get you, Enrique.
yeah.
Or in Spider-Man 2 where she's tied up and she's like she's chewing Doc Ock out. All those things make her feel like an actual like New Yorker, in
Yeah.
my opinion.
I thought she was perfect. I'm telling you. These two together. And we'll talk about possibilities of something in the future later here, but I love it. I just think these two together are magic. And Sam Raimi directed this, as we know, Phil. And when you know a
Mhm.
Sam Raimi joint from a mile away, a lot of
Yes, you do.
the stuff that he enjoys doing as a director is, and his brother's in it, of course. The car's in it too. Isn't it Uncle Ben's car in this movie? Or
I
am I
think so.
wrong? Yeah. So yeah, it's you know, there's moments of like Darkman that's a little bit, it's just so cheeseball, it's crazy. There's a few moments here like that, Phil, but it's nothing to the point that they don't pull back and remind you, hey, this is a Marvel character. Everybody calm down. We're just having some fun. But like, you can definitely tell it's Sam Raimi here, man. His vision for part 1 and part 2. I mean, dude, without Sam at the helm, Phil, you could also say, not only do you have to nail the cast, you got to nail the director. If he wasn't involved, does this movie even work? It's hard to say now, you know?
Yeah, I don't think it works without Sam. I think he adds so much of the style and so much of what works. Um, I don't know. I think the thing that I love the most about Spider-Man 1 and 2 before comic book movies became like the norm. Um, there was so much like wonder and like excitement about this. I mean, from the second you sat down in the theater and you hear the Elfman theme and you get like the web and the opening credits, it's like this is incredible. Like I haven't even seen anything yet, and I'm like already super excited. And
Yeah.
then you get all of these things like him actually drawing the suit, the montage of that. You get the montage of him saving people at one point with the Daily Bugle thing, and he walks past the screen with the mask over half of his head. It's just so great.
So great. And Spider-Man's your guy, Phil. We have to make that clear here.
I'm a big Spider-Man fan, so part of it is me being just like elated at so many things on screen. Like I think it's Spider-Man 2 where he draws the typical Ditko face with the half mask
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and half Peter face. And there's a few things in here that are very like Ditko-esque that I just like I popped huge for. Like I don't know, like just as a big Spider-Man fan, like I just couldn't help be super excited for it. Like again, I know some of this stuff doesn't work for everybody, but there are just so many things in this movie that I pop huge for. There's so many things that have become memes. There's so many things that have turned into like ongoing jokes that played out No Way Home just because it just tied back to this franchise and what this franchise meant to people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. That is Phil Jimenez, comic book artist extraordinaire, doing that work on those pads, by the way, when it's Peter's hands.
Yeah, I feel like he just tweeted recently and was saying that's my hand.
Yeah, yeah. I forget why it was being tweeted. Honestly, I can't remember why now.
I think it was just somebody brought up that montage and was saying how comic booky it is and how great it is, and then he was
Yeah,
like, "Hey, that was my hand."
yeah, it's really cool. Really cool. Yeah, I mean, I think we've established here, hopefully, that Toby and Kirsten are just phenomenal together. They look like they match, Phil. I think that's important too. If you saw them together, you would say, "Oh, they look great. Like they look like a couple to me," you know?
Yeah, starting the long-standing tradition of the Sony Spider-Man movies of the leading man and the leading woman actually ended up dating in real life.
Yeah, right. That's nice. I mean, she's not bad to look at, I'll say, if that old Kristen Dunst here, I'm telling you.
Yeah, you've got the iconic scene of them doing the upside down kiss thing from In the Rain,
Yep.
which is like synonymous with this movie.
Yeah, it's really good. It's a classic scene. Classic
It
scene.
is.
Yeah. Awesome. I really enjoyed watching this movie again yesterday, and I'm watching it again right now as we speak. I've seen it so many times. I could quote it at some points. Excellent film. Uh, Willem Dafoe, he's the heavy Norman Osborn / Green Goblin. We told this story here before, Phil, that John Malkovich was in the running for this. He turned it down, and I don't have the quote in front of me. It was something to the effect of, "I'm not doing a comic book movie. It's beneath me," or whatever it was he said. Because I remember at the time being outraged as a comic book fan, thinking, "Well, we don't need you anyway, pal." Right?
Yeah.
I
This
mean,
is too far, but you can do Man in the Iron Mask. All right, yeah, cool.
yeah, no kid. And then he did Red later, which is a comic book.
Yep.
So yeah, we see what happened.
Maybe he saw the Green Goblin costume and he's like, nope.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. I got thoughts on that. Yeah, but like, look, I like John Malkovich a lot. Crazy talented actor. We didn't need him. Willem Dafoe ate this up. Couldn't wait to do it. Wanted to do it again. He'd do it right now. He'd do it tomorrow if you called him. He's good with it. He freaking loves this role. Like,
yes.
I mean, as comic book fans, Phil, you hope that you get an actor on board who is as passionate about it as you are, and he definitely is.
Yeah, chewing up scenery, man. This movie is not the movie that it is without Willem Dafoe. I thought that was one of the best things about No Way Home is people giving Willem Dafoe his flowers again, and again expressing just how great he is in a role. Man, he's so great in No Way Home, man. I don't want to start gushing about the many things he does in that movie that are great, but he does very similar things in this movie where he'll shift at the drop of a dime from just Norman being sheepish and kind of cowardly into being like cackling, conniving Green Goblin. And he's doing a voice and everything. It's just so great. All of the scenes where he's like talking to himself in a mirror and he'll like change from back and forth between each character. It's so good. Just fantastic acting. He has so many lines in this movie that have become memes. The I'm something of a scientist, of course, that's turned into a meme,
Right.
which he also said in No Way Home. There's him monologuing Spider-Man several times in the movie. Of course, the scene where he slaps Spider-Man on the back of the head, and he's like, we're not that much alike. We're not that different. It's just so great. There's also become like a big thing that he's wearing foam posits. I don't know if you know, but
No.
with the Green Goblin costume, he's wearing very popular Nikes. He's wearing green foam posits because it fit with the costuming. And so every time I watch this movie now, particularly the last fight scene where he is like beating the ever loving snot out of this guy, he's wearing foam posits, and it's funny to me every time I see it.
I didn't freaking know this. I can't believe all these years I didn't know this. Before we gush any more about him, let's talk about this freaking costume thing he's wearing. If I have any drawback, not even a drawback, if I have any negative commentary, I get it. In the real world, there's not a man on the planet that would get on a contraption like this and not wear some sort of protection just in case stuff goes wrong. So like wearing a very lightweight armor, I can understand. You can also say, well, the helmet's aerodynamic. Okay, it's like a tail fin of a car. All right, fine. But then there's the face, Phil. Like, so this guy loses his mind, but he has the presence of mind to make this thing look demonic. Like, that's some comic book science in effect, Phil. I got to tell you.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that the suit is ideal. We're also in that time period with the X-Men movie where these things were trying as hard as possible to look as realistic as possible and not veer too much into making the suits look very comic booky and silly. And so I didn't think we were gonna get like the Green Goblin with like the hood and the cape and like like the pixie boots and everything
No.
at that time period for sure. Um, yeah, the armor in itself is fine. I think if you just throw a cloak over that armor, I think it's great. Like I've seen concept art of the armor with like a kind of like a cloak and a hood over it, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
just like, why didn't they just do that? And I think the face of the mask itself is fine. The worst thing about the helmet mask is that it doesn't move, and you don't get Willem Dafoe emoting.
Yeah.
And I think you see that a lot in No Way Home. I think he even talked about in an interview about how at several points where he's acting and he has to have this mask over his face, you can't see him emoting. And I think we missed out on so many great moments of actually seeing his actual face and seeing like his facial expressions. Like just think about how great the fight scene with him and Peter is in that hallway because you can actually see him emoting.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, so good. Yeah, because he's got like this mesh over the mouth portion of the mask.
Yeah. But yeah, the costume is probably one of the worst things about the Goblin
Mm.
in this movie. It's actually the only weakness of the Goblin in this movie. I think acting wise, I think a lot of stuff like the glider looks great, I thought.
Yeah.
I thought their interpretation of the pumpkin bombs was also genius. I like that as
Mm-hmm.
well.
Yep.
It's just really the suit.
Yeah, it's just the suit. I mean, he is utterly fantastic in everything he does. I mean, it just works. The villain just works. I mean, again, he embraces the role. He makes it click. I'm with you. I think the glider looks really good. I love the idea that, they're creating this thing for the military. Makes total sense to me. I think it fits 100% in another universe. And again, we'll get to that later. In another universe, Norman Osborn happens to know Tony Stark. Like that could be a thing if we ever circle back to it, because that makes sense. But like,
Yes.
you know, it, I can't say enough good things about Willem Dafoe in this role, man. He just freaking nailed it. And he's very off-putting. It's a very eccentric performance because you could say he's evil, but well, he's kind of wacky. Like
Yes.
he's not like Joker maniacal. And I've seen like photoshopped of him as the Joker. Why this guy's never played the Joker before is beyond me. But yeah, I mean, you mentioned the outfit. I love in No Way Home. He's got that purple hoodie on. Such a nice touch.
Yes. Yeah. I like that we got a nice kind of in between in No Way Home.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think definitely in that time period, a lot of comic book movie villains kind of fell in this vein where everybody was trying to do like this Nicholson thing, where everybody wanted to be like this cackling, kooky comic book villain. And I think the thing that made him so great in this movie is that he was zany and he was campy in ways, but he also felt very dangerous. He also was very off-putting and kind of terrifying at times.
Yeah.
And I think that added so much to this movie because I mean, I'm telling you, sitting in the theater at the end of towards the end of this movie, and I was like, wait a minute, is he gonna kill this guy or what? Because he was beating the hell out of him. I was like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
hold on. And there's several things he does, like facial expression wise, like him just kind of turning to the camera and doing things where I'm just like that he's nailing it. Of course the scene at the table at Thanksgiving where he's sharpening a knife and he's staring at me in the face.
So good.
It's so off-putting, and that leads to him later blowing up her house and us getting the scene of Aunt May trying to pray, and he comes blowing up through the window. It's
What a
so
great
ridiculous.
dude. That scene is just, if you're not expecting it, hold on. Oh man, it's just out of nowhere, dude.
Finish it.
Yeah.
Finish it.
Yeah. Yeah. When he tells Harry, take what you need from her and bring her fast.
Yeah. Oh
Like,
man, he just does so many things in this movie, especially after he becomes Goblin. Um, yeah. Oh man, I don't know why that scene in itself. Just every time I will sit and quote the entire scene of him getting up from the table when he realizes that Peter has the cuts on his arm in the same place as Peter.
Yep.
I mean, as Spider-Man, and then he gets up and walks away, and then he has that conversation in the background, and then he comes back in the house, and Mary Jane was like, "Way to stand up for me, Harry." And then he tried to, he's like, "If only I was half the man he were." And then May goes, "Harry Osborn."
Yeah, yeah. Because he's like, what does he say? Watch your mouth or something to her.
Yeah, watch your mouth. If you were lucky, I would be half the man that he is.
My God. You going to tell a woman, really? Watch your mouth?
Harry Osborn.
Yeah. That thing went south quick, I'm telling you.
Yeah, all because he wanted to put his fingers in that sweet potatoes before it was time to say grace.
I'm saying. And she slapped his hand. That's what got it started.
Yeah, he was not feeling that. He turned around and saw that cut on that arm.
Can't be slapping the Goblin, man. I'm just saying. It's a bad idea. Let's talk briefly about his son in the film, James Franco. At the time, James Franco, to our knowledge, kids, had not done stuff. And we don't have to run down this whole rap sheet, Phil, but starting in 2014, this dude started doing weird stuff. And then it just got worse in the years after that. And now he's basically a pariah, isn't he? I mean, have we seen anything from this guy at all?
Did an interview like a year or so ago, where he made the point that he's still trying to work and he's still got certain things going, but no, like we haven't seen him acting. He's been essentially canceled.
Yeah, he has.
Yeah, I always kind of felt like he was a little miscast in this movie. I thought that he got better as the franchise went on, and that's maybe because we had gone through 3 movies with those 3 members of the cast, and so it was just kind of hard to see them without him. Like, man, like that's one of the things from Spider-Man 3 that I think about when I watch it. Like, I got surprisingly emotional when he dies in the 3rd movie because I was just like, oh man, like because you've been with him and Peter since the very beginning, since high school on, and so yeah, and there's certain things in Spider-Man 3 that I think he does very well. He does some very kooky things in that movie as well.
Yeah.
I matter of fact, I would say that James Franco is at his best in the 3rd movie, for better or worse. But he doesn't get a chance to do much in this movie. He's just kind of there to be Peter's best friend.
I mean, apart from all this stuff, dude, I've never been incredibly happy with him in this movie. And that's not me trying to retrofit my opinion based on what he did. But I don't know. Wooden, maybe. Something about it. It's not, I don't know.
Yeah,
something not fitting for me, you know?
I think what he does well is he does the awkwardness of Harry of being popular and just kind of being this, well, not even just being popular, being a guy that is rich and also just kind of being a doofus.
Yeah.
Like there's several scenes where Peter just seems like more well adjusted and likable than him, and he's not really even doing anything on purpose to outshine him. It's just because he's just kind of a oaf.
Yeah.
And I think his comedic timing at times in the movie is spot on. Like, of course, the Flash fight when Flash tries to beat up Peter after he discovers he's got powers, and he's just like dodging all of his punches. And Mary Jane walks up and goes, "Harry, get in there and help him." And he's just like, "Which one?"
Yeah. It's really good. That's really well done. Yeah. And you know, I gushed earlier, Phil, about this cast had to be perfect or this movie doesn't work. But like, he looked the part. You know, he's not terrible.
He needs like the wavy short haircut though.
Yeah.
That's what both the Osborns need. They need the wavy haircut.
that close cropped. I guess that was supposed to have been a buzz. I don't know what that was supposed to have been all those years ago. I guess a buzz cut. I don't know.
Yeah, dude, he needs the wavy haircut, man.
Yeah, that's what did it. He yeah, I mean, I thought it was fine. Again, not crazy about it, but I thought it was fine. I mean, again, the three of them together, you got used to seeing them together as a trio. His character starts dating Mary Jane after her and Flash Thompson break up. Hey, kids, Tom Clark here, and did you know the very podcast you're listening to right now is available on boinkstudios.com. B-O-I-N-K, Boink Studios is the home of Tom Clark's Main Event, Tom Clark's 6M podcast, and Two Nations Under Ted, a Ted Lasso podcast. Visit the site today for links to every podcast platform, social media, special announcements, and a lot more. Check out the site and bookmark today, boinkstudios.com. Joe Manganiello, that guy's gone on to do a lot of other stuff. He's actually Deathstroke, or he was for about 10 minutes.
Yeah, he was very excited about that role.
Yeah.
And it just evaporated.
Yeah, well, as most things in that universe did, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's really good as Flash, by the way. I mean, look, I love the new Toby stuff. I do. And I don't hate the kid that plays Flash. I think if you're talking about a modern day Flash Thompson, would he be more of a smart mouth than he would be a jock? Okay, that's fine. I don't bump into it too hard. But again, the Spider-Man I grew up with, Flash is a jock and he's a piece of crap. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So I don't know. Again, I don't hate on the new stuff because I love the new stuff. It's just a different take on it.
Yeah, I think Flash in this movie is great because he's just what you'd expect him to be. He's a big, dumb jerk that picks on Peter every day.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think it works.
Yeah.
He doesn't get a chance to do anything outside of a few scenes that he's in, but I think he works well in the scenes he's in.
Yeah, I agree. So Aunt May and Uncle Ben, Rosemary Harris and Cliff Robertson, respectively. We gushed over these two in part 2, as we should. Cliff Robertson is a legendary actor, been around for a long, long time. I mean, this guy, truly awesome. We actually lost him in 2011. It's been that long. He was 88 when he passed. But man, I got to tell you, dude, and I'm not just saying this because he was the first guy on the big screen. To me, he is the quintessential Uncle Ben. You know what I mean?
No, he is. I agree.
So good. Just feels like your grandpa, like 100%.
I agree. I think he's great in the role. I think that they do a great job of in the few minutes that we see them on screen together, of getting us to buy into um, Peter and Uncle Ben's dynamic.
Yeah.
Because they do very important things to kind of set up the tent poles for their relationship. It doesn't really take that long, but um, I mean, just having the moments of him, kind of lashing out at him and just trying to be his own man and getting upset with him at certain times, and then it blowing up in his face the way it did. That's so important to his character. But I think that the way that it's portrayed in the movie, it's so easy to feel for Peter in that moment where he does get shot, because it was just that little short blink of an eye moment of him being mean to him that just changed the course of his entire life. And
Yeah.
I just think in that moment, it's just like, I think that's such a relatable thing of regretting something you said to somebody and then not getting a chance to apologize for it, and not, getting to show somebody, especially family, how much you appreciate them. Um, and so, yeah, when he gets shot, it hits hard, man. It's, of course, we know it's coming because it's a big part of his origin, but it hits hard in the movie because we have certain things at the beginning of the movie where he was like trying his best to be a guiding figure in his life, but also be his friend. And like you have stuff like, hey, man, see you after school, Michelangelo, because he's supposed to come home and paint the house, and he doesn't come home, and all of those things that link to that. It just adds to not just his spot where it dies, but again, the most Spider-Man thing in cinema to me is the scene with him fighting Norman at the end, and he's monologuing to him, and he's saying that he's saying all these things, and he's just like, I had a father. His name was Ben Parker. Every time I tear up every time he says it, man.
So good. So good. And when he drops him off and he says, I know I'm not your father, and he yells at him and says, and stop pretending to be.
Yeah.
Man,
It, got it, because you could see how much in that moment, and that's how great the acting is. You could see in that moment just how much Ben's feelings were hurt, and he didn't mean it. And so to see that he learned that lesson by the end of the movie and getting the payoff to that, I get emotional every time I see it.
Yeah, gosh, so good. And again, if you don't feel that between those two, the movie doesn't mean much. You have to feel that early, and like we totally felt it. Totally felt it. That's why it works. Joe Quesada recently was on a podcast, and he was telling the host about Stan Lee giving him the secret. He said he talked to Stan early on. And he wanted to know the secret. He said, how is it you've been so successful through the years? Why these creations work? Give me the secret. I really want to know the answer to this. So, and I'm paraphrasing, but basically Stan tells him, well, when, for example, when you see, Peter Parker pulling the mask and he jumps off the building and he's flying through the city or swinging one building to the next and he's doing his thing. He's like, is that the best part about the character? And Joe's like, yeah, I love that. And then Stan goes, wrong. It's not the best part of the character. He said, I don't care about that. What I care about is who's the guy in the mask? What problems does he have? Did he make his rent this month? Does he have enough groceries in his house? Who's he dating? Do his friends accept him? Does he have a job? How does he pay his bills? And I'm like, that's genius. Like now, Phil, we're so used to hearing the Marvel story. But for a guy that didn't really know anything about comic books and comics were still sort of developing around him, to bring that approach to it, we have to take a minute and give the man his props because, man, what a great way to rethink this. And it works, Phil, every time. When Marvel does it the right way, it works every time.
Yeah, I again, I think Spider-Man is a great character. Of course, you have the visuals of him web swinging, one of the greatest costumes in the history of the genre.
Mm-hmm.
All of these things that make him cool. But the thing that makes Spider-Man, Spider-Man, and all of the lessons that a lot of us learned from Spider-Man is because of Stan Lee and the way that he wrote him, the way the ethos he embedded into the character. It just doesn't work without it. Um, just that idea that you can make one mistake and it can follow you for the rest of your life. And just learning from that mistake and knowing that, all right, yeah, I messed up, but I can right that wrong by trying for the rest of my life to be a better person. I don't care who you are. That's relatable. Like the idea of somebody just putting on a costume and going truth and justice in the American way and all of those things isn't as relatable as somebody having this really terrible thing happen to them and going, I'm going to make this right for the rest of my life by being a better person.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you can't take it back. You can't bring them back, but you can try to do the right thing moving forward. Yeah. That's a big statement, man. We get really deep on that stuff, but that's well said. Freaking awesome. And talk about nailing the casting. Rosemary Harris, we have to take a second for her. Like, she's fantastic in this. She's even better. I mean, I think she's even better in part 2. She's a great Aunt May. Mm-hmm. Like, you can tell this is she's an actress. I get it. But, man, I don't know. You can tell this is a strong woman, Phil. This is not a pushover. This is not a woman that, the electric company's going to, rip her off this month. She's going to be on the phone. She's not going to take any crap. You can just tell she's made of stronger stuff, man. I think she's great in this role.
Yeah, she's great. I think that she's an incredible Aunt May. I agree. I think she's much better in the second movie, only because she gets more to do.
Yeah.
And she's such a big part of the theme of the movie. But she's great in this movie as well. Just all the small things she's allowed to do, and just her and Uncle Ben. The acting between the two of them and Toby is just so great. When she's when she's trying to be there for him in certain scenes, and she's not saying much, but the acting and just like the facial expressions is just so good.
Yeah, so good. Really good. Of course, the famous line when she's in the hospital and she says, "You do too much. You're not Superman, you know."
Yes,
I love
yes.
that.
I thought you were gonna do those eyes,
Yeah.
those big yellow eyes.
Oh, it's terrible, isn't it? It's just enough cheese that you're like, oh, stop it. Shut the door already. That's Sam Raimi, man. That's him.
It's all Sam Raimi. Oh, everything about that scene, I just love it, man. Her doing that, and he turns around, he's like, he knows who I am.
Yeah. I mean, I love that Michael Keaton's Vulture in Homecoming. I'd like part of me like to think we have to do this because it's a nice callback to this film. Do you know what I mean?
Boy, you talk about another incredible Spider-Man moment is uh Michael Keaton as Vulture driving to drop them off at the dance, and um lets his daughter out the car, and he's like, "Well, hold on a minute, I want to talk to you, Peter." And he
Yeah.
sits there and talks to him. He pulls the gun out on a on a dashboard, and he talks to him. Such a great scene. Such a great scene.
So good. I'll kill you and everybody you love. Oh my God, dude. What?
He's just so cold and direct with it. It's so great.
Yeah. Awesome. Oof. Can you believe we've not done that flick? Why have we not done that flick?
Also, very, very good Spider-Man movie.
Very good Spider-Man. Holy Lord, that's in the pipeline for sure. That's on the to-do list. We can't let this go very much farther without mentioning the great one and only J.K. Simmons. In as much as Robert Downey was born to play Tony Stark, J.K. Simmons was put on this planet primarily to be Jonah Jameson. I'm telling you, he is fantastic. Green Goblin, I want a quarter every time somebody says it. Are you kidding? Freaking great, man.
Yeah, nobody else can play this role. And we've seen it because they didn't even try to recast him.
Nope.
Nobody else can play this role. He's just perfectly cast. The best thing I think, outside of the villains and some of the other things about the Raimi franchise, is J. Jonah Jameson. He's just so great. All of his dialogue is perfect. The way that J.K. delivers it, also great. Just completely dives headfirst into his character, man. He's just incredible. Looks the part. I mean, they got the hair, the mustache, and everything perfect.
He's quotable too. Meat. I'll send you a nice box of Christmas meat. Now get out of here.
Yeah,
Love
so
that.
many quotables, man. Yeah, just great. Just his facial expressions, all of the, yeah, just so great. All the humor in his scenes, perfect.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. Ted Raimi, who is Ted Hoffman, comes in and he's telling that whoever's on the phone he says they really can't wait. And he goes, they're about to. I freaking love that. It's so good. Oh, love that guy. He just makes it so much fun. So much more fun than it already is. Yeah. And of course we know that Sam's always got to put his brother in all of his movies, just like the car. So that works. Elizabeth Banks is here as Betty Brant. She's back in 2. Is she back in 3 too or no?
She's definitely in 2.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. She is in 3 because remember she's pointing to the meds he's supposed to take.
Mm-hmm.
And the scene where she keeps buzzing him. Yeah,
that's right. Bill Nunn as Robbie Robertson. We gave him a shout out in part 2 for sure. Again, he just doesn't get a lot to do here. But I thought, he's so good. We get a lot more of him in part 2, which is nice.
Yeah. Rest in peace, of course, to the great Billy Nunn. He's great in this movie, man. Very great. I mean, like you said, he doesn't get a lot to do as Robbie, but I think that he was great casting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, I got one thing to say. Bonesaw is ready. Love that.
Listen, so many, I can't say 90s because this was 2002, but so many things from that are just so much dated humor. I mean, Macho Man is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, and so just the fact that he was included in this movie, I had a big smile on my face. That because again, we know that those things about the origin that Spider-Man does do the wrestling thing, and so for him to have wrestling scenes with Macho Man, like smiling ear to ear when I saw it, and just all the humor in it. Bonesaw being, of course, over the top like only Macho Man can be. Um, just really great stuff. All the stuff at the beginning with him going and doing the wrestling scenes and his homemade costume. Great stuff.
So good. Savage is awesome. And they do that. And like you mentioned this to me in the part 2 review, and I had no idea. Lucy Lawless was in this very, very briefly.
Yes. In the montage scene where we first see Spider-Man saving people, and they're talking to all of those people on the street, and one of them is Lucy Lawless.
Yep.
Does not look like her at all, man.
Guy with 8 hands sounds hot.
Yeah.
Jim Norton is in that montage as well, comedian. I forgot about that. R.C. Everbeck, whoever this person is, was intended to play Eddie Brock, but his scenes were unreleased. Brock eventually appeared, of course, in Spider-Man 3. Yeah, I would like to see those scenes. Do we know if they exist anywhere?
Good question. I don't
know. Interesting.
Yeah. We instead got Topher Grace.
Hey, I like Topher Grace. Horribly miscast.
I think he's great in that 70s show. I think he's a very funny actor. Yeah, definitely miscast. I think we still, again, one of those memes from this franchise is him sitting in a church, literally praying on Peter Parker's downfall. One of the funniest things ever. That all-time hater moment.
Yeah. Here's a cameo you may not know is going to happen. Hugh Jackman was planned to have a cameo as Logan. He even arrived to New York to shoot the scene, but it was scrapped after the production team, get this, realized they did not have the character's suit.
But he doesn't have the black leather suit?
Yes.
Oh.
Get the suit.
Why didn't he just show up in plain clothes? That would be a very Logan thing to do.
Absolutely. Whoever's cockamamie idea that was, my 1950s pun. I don't know. Like, what kind of shenanigans is this? What is this hoo-ha in here? Yeah, just put the guy in the cowboy hat and the stogie. What else do we need?
Exactly. Get him a red plaid shirt. Get him the cowboy hat. Get him a nice little a t-shirt to wear under it.
Yep. Lovely. Yeah. God knows what the heck happened there. Remember we talked about developmental hell? This movie, they started to talk about this in 1975 is when Marvel, Stan Lee, as we know, if you know the story of Marvel, Stan Lee shopped their properties around to any studio that would bite, which is how they ended up in trouble later, not being able to get their stuff back. Because, look, to his credit, Phil, he was just trying to ensure longevity beyond the printed medium. Hats off to him for at least making the effort. But that's how, I believe, in some parts, Spider-Man ended up the way it did, and how Sony still, to this day, like, I don't know about you, if and when the time gets here that Sony's done, that Marvel can own this character outright, I'm so here for that, dude.
Yeah, they've definitely dug their nails in, and they're not letting this franchise go without a fight.
Yeah.
Which I understand. It's one of their biggest cash cows. Spider-Man as a franchise was instrumental in the comic book boom because other than X-Men, they showed that these franchises can be profitable. Because they were skyrocketing by a second movie, one of the most highest grossing movies that year. You don't get the Avengers franchise and a lot of the stuff that came after it without the success of this franchise. And so I get that on Sony's point that you're like, hey, you guys are making a lot of money. You got billion-dollar franchises over there. You don't need this one. Let us have some money too.
Yeah. 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 I mean, they're making all those crappy movies over there. I mean, we don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, the spinoff thing they're trying to do, it's just not gonna work, guys. It's just not gonna work. I made the same argument when Gotham came out. Go figure. People don't want to watch properties about Spider-Man with Spider-Man not in them. I It just doesn't work, man. I'm sorry. I don't want to watch all of these villain movies without Spider-Man in them.
I mean, Madam Web made like $14 or whatever the amount was. Like,
Yikes.
I don't know I'm sure it's.
I took one look at that trailer and knew that was going to be a bad movie.
Oh, dude. Yeah. Yeah. I can't even answer the question. How did they shoehorn in this into Spider-Man's universe? Because I know they probably tried, but I don't know how they did it.
Yeah. Didn't I read correctly that it doesn't take place in the same universe as the Tom Holland Spider-Man movie or the Venom movie? I thought I read that somewhere.
Maybe you're right. Jeez.
Yeah. Oof.
I mean, that Craven flick supposed to have been pushed to December of this year now.
Still happening, huh?
Well, they evidently, no one's learning lessons in that studio. I don't know what's going on. Yeah. I mean, we can't get Warner Brothers to release that freaking Batgirl movie, right? But like, meanwhile, Sony keeps putting out these terrible freaking Spider movies. Like, take a clue, take a hint. What are we doing here?
Yeah, you're gonna get as many of these Spider-Man spinoff movies as we can get out there.
Yeah. Oh, man alive. Few notes here to mention. Franco was originally considered an audition for Peter Parker. Little twist there. Kate Bosworth auditioned for Mary Jane, but did not get the role. Elizabeth Banks also auditioned for MJ and did not get the role. Kate Hudson turned down the role. How you like that?
Wow.
Yeah. Well, guess what, Kate? We didn't need you know how.
Yeah.
Eliza Dushku, Mina Savari, and Jamie King also in audition for the role. Quite the little list there of actresses, dude. I don't think anybody was considered for Jameson. Besides, I mean, I don't know. I can't say that 100%, but yeah. It's amazing to me how this stuff works, man. We mentioned Malkovich, being considered for Norman Osborn. So was Jason Isaacs and Billy Bob Thornton and Nicolas Cage.
Oh, Nicolas Cage would have hammed it up in that green suit, man.
Yes.
Oh man, that would have been worth watching outtakes for it.
Oh my God. I got to be honest. I love Dafoe. That would have been a memorable performance, I bet you.
Yeah. Oh God. Maybe for the wrong reasons, but
Well, that's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
What a ride it would have been.
No kidding. We mentioned the Goblin costume. Dafoe insisted on wearing it himself. He felt that a stuntman would not convey the character's necessary body language, so that's him the whole time. The suit came in 580 pieces and took a half hour to put on.
Wow. What a guy.
What a guy. My God. One day when he's gone, they're going to build monuments and write songs about Willem Dafoe. I'm saying.
What a guy, man. There's so many things, again, from this movie that he makes memorable. Him hopping up on a platform after he's injected with the goblin gas. And there's so many things. The way he opens his eye very suddenly at the camera when you think he's dead because of the goblin gas as well.
Mm.
Yeah. Come on, man. Him and Raimi deserve each other. He does all of the stuff that Raimi is famous for outside of like the horror film and like all of the Evil Dead stuff that he wants to do. I'm surprised they haven't done anything else together. It's like a match made in heaven, these two.
That's fair. That's a good question too. I don't know why. Dunst, by the way, earned the role a month before shooting in an audition in Berlin. She took it because once she learned Maguire had been cast, she thought the film would have a more independent feel. I can see that. Her hair was dyed in the front and she wore a half wig. The crew wanted her to straighten her teeth, but she refused. Good for her. I mean, it's a bit different feel to some degree. Like, I'm going to do something that could be considered heresy by many comic book fans, but hold with me on this. In the books, MJ is a flat out model, like for real. And so many times it felt like she is so far out of Peter's league This guy will never stand a chance. Gwen Stacy's the more obvious choice. Phil, you can make the argument here, and I'm sure that many people probably already have. This version of Mary Jane in this film is more Gwen Stacy than Mary Jane. How do you fall on that?
I think she's closer to Ultimate Mary Jane than anything.
Mm.
You can see that there's like bits of Mary Jane and bits of what makes Gwen Stacy so important to Peter Parker here.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say she's exactly like Gwen Stacy though.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I just love her. I love her to death. I can't get enough of her in this movie. I absolutely. And we got a lot of her. I mean, I don't remember there being a scene in this movie where she wasn't just on her game, dude. I really don't.
Yeah. Well, I heard from a certain person that love would always save us.
That freaking song. Oh. I mean, I know you're a big Nickelback guy, so I'm going to try not to make too much fun of it.
Listen, the music for this movie is such a big part of what makes this movie memorable in itself. Of course, the Danny Elfman score, but man, Hero, man.
Ooh, yeah.
Hero, man. Hero. Like what a time, man. The music video for Hero, the Hero coming on at the end of the movie and during the closing credits. What's the other song on the soundtrack that plays during the I've watched this movie 1,000 times. So
oh gosh, I don't remember.
There's another song that comes on. It's like rock. It's what we're all about. It's
yeah,
what we live
yes.
for.
Sum 41. Yes.
Oh man, what a movie! I love this movie.
It's like they had to throw that in really, really quick just to say it was in the film or something.
Yes,
it's a soundtrack movie. No, it's not.
Yeah, every time I watch the movie and I'm sitting there through the entire credits for whatever reason, I usually end up watching the entire credits as well. And so when that song comes on, I was like, "This song, how does this fit this movie? Why is this here?" But now it's like I just can't even think of the movie and the credits without it.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, I mean, we won't have to go into lyrics of that. How that song makes no freaking sense at all.
Hero?
Yeah, terrible.
Come on, man.
Terrible.
Someone told him that love could always save us.
Yeah.
But how could that be? Because look what love gave us.
Yeah. It's terrible. So bad. They say that what is it? They say a hero is going to, what is it?
What is it?
I'm trying to sing it in my head.
Basically, it's like they say that a hero can save us.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna stand here and wait.
I'm not gonna stand here and wait. What does that mean? Like, I don't get it.
Hold on to the wings of an eagle.
Yeah.
Watch as they all fly away.
And that refrain, he's watching us. What? What are we talking about now?
Oh man.
Oh, it's terrible. It's so bad. But you're right. It fit the movie at the time, and we can laugh about it now. But like at the time, it fit. And I wasn't a fan of. Look, full transparency. I did like Saliva. I'm not gonna lie about it. But like at the time, it fit. Now it's hokey. But like at the time, it fit perfectly.
Now, Vindicated is absolutely a better song. Vindicated is fire.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to hear no Vindicated slander.
That's fair. Here's something we didn't mention, and I vividly remember this happening. After September 11th, Sony pulled the teaser posters because it showed a close-up of Spider-Man's head with the World Trade Center towers being reflected in his eyes. I do remember that happening. They pulled it. And the original trailer featured a mini film or a plot involving a group of bank robbers escaping in a Eurocopter helicopter, which gets caught from behind and propelled backward into what at first appears to be a net, and then it's a gigantic spider web between the Trade Center towers. I do remember all that happening at the time.
Yes, I remember a lot of stuff getting cut. But yeah, promotional material for this movie is also really good. The posters are great.
Yeah.
The one of course, of him crawling up the wall, and the camera's looking down at him. Um, all really good stuff, man. Posters for Spider-Man 2 are also incredible.
Yeah, the colors are what those golden colors are what I remember more than anything else.
Yeah, the one for Spider-Man 2 where it's behind him and he's holding the mask and he's looking out at the cityscape. One of the best movie posters ever, in my opinion.
Love it. Really, really love it. It's really well done. There's footage out, not footage, kids, but there's pictures of the original animatronic mask for the Goblin to wear. It is creepy as all get out. I love it, Phil, but let's be honest, it wouldn't probably make a lot of sense any more than the headgear did that he wears in the helmet. But
Yeah.
it looks sharp. It looks good though. I mean, honestly, it's creepy, but it still wouldn't fit here.
Yeah.
Because then you would be like, what was the plan? Like to have a Hulk situation where he transforms back and forth, or yeah, that's the only thing that would make sense.
Yeah. Which is how they handle it in the Ultimate Comics, where he literally transforms into like a big hulkling goblin.
Mhm.
Yeah. That was always going to be tough to translate the Green Goblin's look to the movie, especially at that time period.
Yeah, for sure. We have to also give John Dykstra a big shout out. He's the guy that was behind the film's visual effects. Legendary guy. Got to mention him too. The CGI in the film, Phil, we talked about some of this in part 2. Does it hold up? Is it patchy? You can definitely see, Phil, where it's not quite as slick as what you would get now, but that was 22 years ago. We have to be fair about it.
I still think a lot of it's aged well. I think a lot of web slinging still looks good. I think stuff like Peter Parker. No, sorry. Is that in this movie? No, that isn't this movie. I still think the stuff like Spider-Man going into that burning building, which also also Willem Dafoe pretending to be a woman behind a cloak, and it turns out it's him for some reason standing in this burning building waiting for Spider-Man to come in there so he can fight him.
Yeah. Just hanging out.
So campy and ridiculous, but it's funny every time I watch it. But I also had that great scene where he throws the goblin bomb at him that breaks into those two like swinging blade things, and he ducks them.
Oh man.
Come on,
Yeah.
man. Iconic movie, man. Him, uh, Goblin making his debut and fighting while Macy Gray is for some reason in Times Square singing.
We never get a good reason why. She's just kind of there.
Yeah. But it's just part of the movie now. Like, I don't bump into any of these things. Like, now I just kind of chuckle at it every time it happens. Like, yeah, Macy Gray was in this movie.
Yeah. I bet she's riding on that too. I would be. And look, not for nothing, Phil. There's not actually, 12,000 people in what they're trying to pass off as Times Square. We know that's not real. But man, they did a pretty good job convincing you it was. I have to say, it feels pretty busy where they're filming there.
Yes.
So,
yes.
movie trickery.
It does. And I think a great thing about the franchise as well is that New York and New Yorkers are very much a character in this movie. From the montage where he's saving people and they're giving their eyewitness accounts of Spider-Man to the New Yorkers on the ferry thing that helped him and Mary Jane. Of course, they're a big part of the character of the second movie as well. But I don't think it's Spider-Man movie without New York and his tie to New York.
Yeah, and the funny part about this, actually, principal photography began in California for this movie. Yeah, interesting. Some of that I'm sure had to do with the post September 11th attacks, which weren't even a year after this movie came out. Let's see, Sony Stage 29 was used for Parker's Forest Hill's home in Stage 27 was used for the wrestling sequence. Sound stages abound. Stage 27 was also used for the complex Times Square sequence. So yeah, all soundstage stuff.
Tom Clark 6M Podcast is sponsored in part by Radius Law Group. Every day, Radius helps individuals, families, small businesses, and nonprofit organizations throughout North Carolina, Florida, and Pennsylvania resolve their legal issues by providing effective legal counsel in the areas of estate planning, as well as elder law and Medicaid. Radius Law holds the radical belief that working with a lawyer can indeed be enjoyable. So give them a call at 1-800-519-5667 for more information and tell them that Tom Clark 6M Podcast sent you.
Yeah, that was, there's also, man, there's a lot of stuff to deep dive in here. It takes another hour. But there was actually a construction worker was killed when a forklift modified as a construction crane crashed into a construction basket that he was in.
Oh, no.
And,
That's horrible.
Yeah, right. And it led to the California Division of Occupational, or OSHA for California, to fine Sony $58,000 for the accident. And let's see, something else here that happened was on April 4th, Spider-Man costumes were stolen. And Sony put up a $25,000 reward for their return. They were recovered 18 months after, and a former movie studio and security guard and accomplice were arrested.
Wow.
Yeah, crazy. Production moved to New York City for 2 weeks, taking in locations such as the Queensboro Bridge, the exteriors of Columbia University's Loeb Memorial Library and the New York Public Library, and a rooftop garden in Rockefeller Center. There you go. The Flatiron building was used for the Daily Bugle in Los Angeles. The Flatiron building. There you go. One word. Originally known as the Fuller building. That's the triangular building. That's what they use for the Daily Bugle. Very cool. Yeah. I mean, lots about this movie, Phil. This movie is so freaking good. I'm with you. I think it holds up. I don't know where we would look. To be honest, I don't know where we are today if this movie doesn't happen. I mean, if for some reason it can't get off the ground, we go directly from Blade to X-Men to, I mean, I don't know the timeline for superhero movies at this time. I don't know what we get after this. I mean, Iron Man doesn't happen until what, 2008?
Yeah. So we go straight from Blade to X-Men to Fantastic Four. That's around that time period, right?
You know what? You have to be right because I don't remember the FF coming before this, but I could be wrong. It seems like that's about the right time. Why do I want to say the year 2000 for Fantastic Four? Let's see, 2005 for the first Fantastic Four film. There you go. 3 years after.
Yeah, we don't. Yeah. What a odd two movies that was. We don't have to really get into it, but what a odd two movies.
Yeah.
They weren't bad, but it didn't quite hit the mark.
No, I mean, yeah. Well, that's another talk for another time. Yeah. Lots to say on that. Yeah, they just good cast, just didn't quite make it. And the stuff with Jessica Alba doesn't age well. The stuff that she kind of had to go through, it was kind of weird. Like, why are we forcing this actress with Latina heritage into this role that is a white woman? And why are we doing that exactly? Like, yeah, a lot of that stuff is not good, dude.
Yeah, I mean, there's other things about it, like the Invisible Woman is technically the most powerful member of the team, and she's never really treated like that in those movies. There's too much tongue in cheek of like, "Oops, she's naked. Look, oops, she's in her bra and panties," and it's just like, well, why are you doing this? Just present her as like a good character that is also competent. She's supposed to be a scientist as well. Yeah, what a weird movie.
Yeah, they just kept taking that girl's clothes off every chance they could. Yeah, freaking crazy. I don't get that either. Well, kids, there's Spider-Man for you. There's so much in this. I'm telling you, man, we could do a whole other hour just on moments in this movie that just stand out. And um, what? All right, let me hit you with this. What, in your opinion, is the best relationship in this movie? Is it Peter and Mary Jane? Is it Peter and Harry? Is it Peter and Aunt May? Are they all equally important? Does one stand out? I mean, your opinion, which one is the best of the bunch?
Um, I am technically gonna cheat because I think the triumph of this movie is that they do a great job of not just building up Peter Parker as an essential character, but is supporting characters around him, like his circle of friends, his family, and everybody around him. Like this big cast of character, they do such a great job of doing this world building and making you care about all the people in this life.
Yeah, it's well said. I mean that. Yeah, as we said before, kids, like if you don't nail the cast, this movie doesn't work. But to Phil's point, you don't just nail the core; you have to nail everybody around him. Like it's again, the lead singer is only as good as the band around him. So that's kind of what we're looking at here. I mean, I have to tell you, I agree with you. I don't know how off the mark you are, if you are at all. I mean, I think in my head, every relationship is equally as important to building, just making this character feel like he's a real person. And you know, the idea of Peter Parker crying as much as he does in the trilogy, like I don't know, it gets a bad rep. Tobey Maguire crying, like angels cry when Tobey Maguire cries in a Spider-Man movie. Phil, I'm just saying, like it just, I mean, if you don't feel that, what's wrong with you? You don't feel that emotion? Like I thought he was great, man. There's little stuff like that people want to single out and pick on. I'm like, I think you're missing the point. He's supposed to be a real person. You know what I mean? At least in the context of the hour and a half you're watching the movie. I love that I love that they add touches that make this person feel like a real man, honest to God, real man.
I mean, it's mostly Spider-Man 3 that adds to this rep about him crying in every movie. It's really
Mm,
Spider-Man 3 that's kind of the main culprit in this.
right.
Because we've got that very cringy breakup scene where he cries, and it's just not good. But I don't bump into him crying in any of the other movies because it's always at a scene where it makes sense for him to cry.
Sure.
Um, but yeah, but no, I think that his supporting cast is very important. It's very important to Spider-Man comics, so you had to get that right in the movie as well.
Mm, yeah. Oh man. Such an incredible cast to a large degree about how, like you said, about how great everybody was together. Everyone has chemistry, everything works. Even the Franco stuff. I mean, I know I picked on the guy, but like, um, I don't think it's a terrible fit. I just can't say I felt it all the way. But
No,
some of that's just his style too. Phil as an actor.
yeah, and I just think the big part of not just having the supporting cast that works and having this lived in life for Peter Parker is that he has to feel like he has something to lose. It's not just that he he decides he's going to be a better person after Uncle Ben dies. It just immediately makes the point that this guy is fighting for something because he's got a lot to lose if this goes awry. Like he has to cover his face, he has to do all these things because he's got a lot of people in his life that this could come back around and you could put all of these people in jeopardy. And we care about all of these characters because we spent time with all these characters now.
Mm,
Like I mean, that's a big touch with towards the end of the movie as well. When he leaves Norman in his house and he leaves, and Harry comes in. As much as we don't get a lot of time with Harry, um, we do get enough of his conflicted relationship with his dad that it would matter that much to him when you know that this is his best friend standing over his dead dad's body, and he's just like, "What have you done?"
mm. Yeah, 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 for sure. I mean, it's complex the whole Harry Osborn thing in part two because he's on a vendetta to get this guy. Like, and again, kids, we got that episode. Go listen to it. But like, just touching on it briefly, like he's got a vendetta to get this guy. And I mean, dude, the way Norman dies in this movie, like in that last brief moment on the planet, he's himself. and just tells Peter, "Don't tell Harry," and then he's gone. And like Peter, because he's a stand-up guy, you know what I mean? Like now Peter's trapped with that or stuck with that burden as if he didn't have enough to carry around all the time. Now he's got that to carry around with him.
Yeah, man. But that's just the ultimate. That's just what's so great about this movie. What's so great about the character and the story they tell is that in that moment he has every reason um, to just let him die and just walk away.
Mm,
Um, but just in that moment of watching, like, wait a minute, I know you, like you're my best friend's dad, and I know what this is gonna do to him. I know like how this is gonna fall back on me. Like nothing he does is without consequence.
hmm
And it's such a Peter Parker moment for this to be happening. Like, all right, this guy that um is the biggest threat to me at this very moment. Um, he's out of the way, and it still is a bad situation for me. It still blew up in my face.
mm. Yeah, he can't win. Like that's
Yeah. Speaking of blowing up in his face, I don't care how many times I watch this movie. Uh, Goblin throwing him through that window, and then the pumpkin bomb comes tumbling through there and hits him in the face. Incredible
so
every
good.
time, and he just proceeds to just start beating this guy. One of the best climax fight scenes of any comic book movie I've ever seen, because the action is good. You actually feel like the villain can win at some point. They do a very good job of doing uh, the trademark Spider-Man feat of strength when his loved one is threatened. Um, so good. Like I said earlier, the one-liner he gives towards the end of the movie, where he also offers him his hand again. And he's like, "I have a dad. I have a father. His name is Ben Parker." Gets stabbed by the Goblin glider. So great.
It's awesome. Yeah, I mean their rooftop conversation is fantastic, but then their conversation is the end, and the end is equally as good, if not better. So good, man.
Yeah. Uh, Man, I can't say enough about also just the closing scenes of the movie of him at the funeral and the conversation he has with Mary Jane, and he walks away. It's perfect.
Mm, it's perfect.
Complete,
Yeah,
completely perfect.
yeah, because he's good. She kisses him. He's good. This is what he's been dreaming about since he was a kid. Until she says, "I love you," and that's when it stopped because he's like, "I can't do it now." Like I does. Had she not said that, maybe he was okay. But the minute she told him that, it's over. Because the narration previously was, everybody I care about is going to be in danger all the time. God, man, what an ending. I mean, you nailed it earlier, man. Like this movie ends, it is the quintessential Spider-Man ending. This is how a Spider-Man movie is supposed to end. And like, I remember seeing this in the theater, and you could audibly hear people like groan at the end, not like mad, but like upset for the character that they just spent,
Yeah.
almost 2 hours in the theater watching, like because they really want him to get the girl. And I'm sitting there like, no, this is how this movie ends. This is perfect.
Yeah, that's the Spider-Man character. He does not get the girl. He's the guy that he's not Superman. He doesn't get to fly in and everything is perfect and everything works out for him.
Yep, that's it. That's it for sure. Um, yeah, well, kids, again, I don't know if we can do this movie justice by just talking about it for an hour and some change. I recommend you go watch it, and trust me, there's a lot of stuff we didn't cover. By the way, the choreography, the fight scenes with Spider-Man, really, really well done. Somebody should get their hand
Excellent.
raised for that or their arm raised for that because man, in the alley when the rain's coming, I mean that's a nice little fight scene. There's a lot of little moments that just make this movie kind of come to life and make it feel like the real thing. So, hats off to him. But yeah, I dare say again, Phil, that we wouldn't have the MCU as we know it today, in my estimation, if this movie either doesn't happen or doesn't work. Because if they start bombing at the box office, why would anybody take a chance on them actually creating their own universe to begin with?
Yeah. There's so many things about this movie that work. The sound, the score, again, just
Mhm.
the scene of once the pumpkin bomb comes in there and like the silence before the bomb blows up in his face, perfect. All the sound editing around that fight is also great.
Yeah, really good. You can tell when there's pros on their game on a film because, like, the upside down scene where they're kissing, classic. We won't mention that, it's raining. Parker could technically drown. We're not going to talk about it just because I love this moment. It's so good. Like, she's falling in love with a guy she doesn't know who is. And Peter's living his best life, being a superhero, and he's getting the girl, but then he can't tell her. And then, by the end, Phil, we figure out when he walks away and she reflects on that kiss that she knows it's him. And then by the time part 2 gets here, I think we decide, yeah, she pretty well knows it's him. Or at least has a suspicion, I guess. Isn't that what we concluded in part 2?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there you have it, kids. Spider-Man 2002. Now you can't say we didn't do it. So, yeah, go check it out, folks. If you have never seen it, shame on you. You're doing life wrong. If you haven't seen it in a while, please go watch it. You'll be very happy that you watch it again. The suit's great. The cast is great. The story's awesome. They respect the source material. You get a Stan Lee cameo. The effects are killing it. It's got a great ending. I don't know what more you can ask for from any film, much less a comic book movie, but they absolutely did it right here. Phil, let's take this home, my friend. Give me your last word on Spider-Man.
Yeah, one of my favorite viewing experiences. I remember being in high school when it came out, and just being just absolutely enthralled with this movie. By the time the second movie came out, I was like in the theater, first day to see it, as soon as I could see it. Yeah, what a time! As a Spider-Man fan, I don't, I don't know if I could have gotten a better experience out of this first movie. Wasn't a perfect movie, of course, but man, what a fun movie to watch, man. Still a fun movie for me to watch. There's still so many things that I pop for when I watch it because it just represents a time in my life. It represents a boom period for comic books and comic book movies that, man, I don't know if you'll ever be able to just experience that for the first time again and just how good it felt.
Oh, you know what? You're right. I don't know if we can. There's been too many phenomenal comic book films happen since then. I mean, I don't know what could compare to that feeling. You're 100% right. I mean, I felt it too. Like, just, this is something great. We're witnessing history with this movie. Like, we really were. Like, the doors were open, and we got to say it, Phil. Like, every time, at least back in that time, when a comic book movie was successful, and there wasn't a lot, but when they were successful, every studio in the business, from producers to screenwriters to studio owners, saw dollar signs. And the only way these movies keep getting made is if they are successful. So when Spider-Man's successful, Phil, you have to know that sows the seeds in the eyes and the minds of many creators out there, many people who can make movies happen. Hey, wait a minute. Maybe there's something to this comic stuff after all. And then boom, fast forward 22 years later, here's where we are.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah. But of course, as always, thanks to the creators. Rest in peace to Stan Lee. Rest in peace to the great John Romita Sr. as well for everything that he did for Spider-Man comics. There are a lot of visuals in this movie that would not have existed without the work that he put on page.
Yep. To the great Steve Ditko as well, co-creator. Yes. Yeah, we always got to give the creators their proper flowers and their proper shout outs because, like you said, without them, we don't get any of this. So I don't think we can repeat that enough. We don't get any of this. We should be so fortunate if you're a fan of a certain medium to have creators that are as passionate and as committed to the characters as we've seen, not just in Marvel, but DC and other publishers as well. But yeah, without them, none of this happens. So we didn't mention this, Phil, but really, really quickly, the possibility of this moving forward as its own separate universe. Is there any, how do I phrase this? What is your thoughts on, hey, I want a new Toby Maguire Spider-Man flick? Would it work? How would it have to be done? Are you here for it? What are your thoughts on it?
I don't think we need a fourth movie. I think that time has passed. I really wanted the fourth movie at one point. I really wanted redemption after Spider-Man 3, but I don't think we need it at this point. Just move forward with the Tom Holland movies. I know that there's talk of doing cameos with the other two Spider-Men again. I know that there's talks of doing other stuff in other universes. Um, I think you can do that in some way. I think the magic moment in this is Toby Maguire in some way appearing in the next Into the Spider-Verse movie. Right? That's the moment, isn't it? It's Miles meeting that Peter, because for a lot of people, that is the first Peter Parker. That's their experience with Peter Parker.
That's fair. What a great move that would be. Oh my God, I'm here for that. I wouldn't mind seeing him live action. Do I need to see an entire movie? I think it would have to be. It had to be done correctly. I mean, Toby is now, let's see, 49. I think it is. I mean, so getting older, getting up there a little bit in terms of moving around, action scenes, that kind of thing. Not impossible. Tom Cruise is like 71. He's jumping off airplanes and stuff. So I'm just saying. I'm not saying I wouldn't be here for it, but I think it would have to be the right situation. A cameo, I'm absolutely here for. We did get closure, kids, in No Way Home for him and Andrew Garfield, who we didn't mention at all in this episode. But again, great creators behind the scenes, actors that are passionate about the characters, people who put these films together. Kudos to them. And hopefully we got a lot more Spider-Man on the way. So keep your eyes open for that. In the meantime, that is Spider-Man 2002.
Hey, thanks for listening to the show. Check out our social media on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at 6M Podcast. We'll see you next time.